color grading. But one of these days I decided to try out color grading inside of Capcut. I realized that is achievable, and more so we're talking about log3. So if you have log3 to color grade and you're wondering can it be done inside of Capcut, this video is definitely for you. I want you to pay attention to exactly how I achieved that. So here I am inside of Capcut without contrast and no colors and all of that, kind of like our canvas to work from. Now that we're here, I will come to this hamburgers icon right here and click on it, because we do need to have access to some tools that we can use to dial in the settings, because without the tools then it becomes difficult to actually know with your bare eyes what the accurate colors look like, because our eye sometimes is not necessarily accurate when we see colors, if you know what I mean. Right here I'm going to go into this particular spot where it says, how do you pronounce this? Oh my god, oscilloscope. Anyway, just click on that thing and then it will bring up our waveform here. So you have the RGB and then you have the other waveform. Now for this particular image, in case this is your first time to have encountered this, I will quickly explain. On top of it right here is anything that has to do with our highlights. If you come into Capcut first, it's probably going to be on this video tab. What you want to do is to come here and click on adjustment. Adjustment is where you are going to be able to dial in all the settings. Mind you, this can be done in the free software. Come here, you open the color thing here and click on show, then this will pop up. So once this pop up, that waveform right there is going to help us really dial in the thing, and that's going to be our monitor to make sure that we are not overexposed and then we are not crushing our shadows. So on top of it right here, the highlight, then beneath this right here, the shadows. And then everything in the middle is basically the middle grounds between the highlight and the shadow. Okay, so take note of that. When I come here and we begin to activate the sliders, we are going to start affecting this image. You know, if I take the exposure right here and pull it all the way up, you can see my waveform is hitting the roof, which means that we are basically overexposed. And then I would reset it. To reset it, I'll simply come to the top here and push that particular button there. It will reset my image back to how it was when we first started. If I go down, as you can see, our image right here is completely black, which is not what we want. And then I will reset it again. Okay, let me let you in on the tabs up here. Represents the basic color correction, like, you know, dialing in our exposure and white balance. And then the HL cell, we can actually pick certain colors we want to affect. Like you can pick on green and maybe remove the saturation for green. That particular green will affect green channel. As you can see here, if you do anything with green, it will basically just affect the green color and the greens in that particular image, nothing more. If you come to the blue, the same thing happens, and the same thing happens to every other color. So to the next tab, I didn't reset this. Okay, so this is how this image should be from the get-go. So to the next tab is the curve. Okay, the curve simply works on contrast. So to the next one is color wheel. This one I really don't use that much. I think it mainly deals with hues. Let's go back to the basics. The first thing I want to do is to go to curves. I will neatly create an S curve here. I'll put a point here and then put another point here. So this is going to be the highlight. Don't forget, I told you the top here is the highlight, and then the bottom here is the shadow. So if I pull from the top of the curve here, it's going to start pulling this waveform to the top here so that we don't hit the roof. If we hit that roof, it's going to probably break the image. We don't want that. All right. So this is my X curve so far. Let's see. You see how the changes we've made so far? I come to the basic here. where I will do my white balance. My white balance seems to be perfect or nearly perfect out of camera, but I can tell that the red is a little bit too much. I want to even the red, green, blue up. So what I would need to do is to add a little bit of blue so that they are evened out. As you can see right there, they seem to be on a perfectly straight line. So I come down to contrast. I probably will need to add a bit of contrast. Contrast just pulls from both ends, the highlight axis and the shadow axis. I try not to do that too much. Maybe a little bit of that would do. And then maybe a little bit of shadow. So now that I have done this, our image still looks a little lifeless. So that's where I am now going to look for saturation. I will increase the saturation a little bit so that we can introduce some color into this. I think I might as well take it all the way. As you can see, it looks a lot better now. Look at that. So, but we're not done yet. After that, I am now going to come here for a filter because I've tried this out before. The filter I'm going to look for is called cyan red. I'll just type it in. Hit enter. Right here, then I'll bring it down here, spread it all across my image here. As you can see right here, it's a little bit too overwhelming, but we're going to tweak it a little bit so that it's tastefully dialed in. And then after that, I'm going to pick adjustment and drop it on here and spread it all across. So now I'll go back to the cyan red filter so that we can begin to correct this. The first thing I want to do is I'll reduce the intensity and then come back to our basic. Instead of doing that on the clip itself, I will now click on adjustment layer here where I will do all the fine tuning. So when I come to adjustment layer, I'll first and foremost put some contrast in. You see, if I push it all the way, it destroys the image here. So I don't want that. I want to keep this waveform in the middle. I want it to look like it's hanging mid-air. So I will just reduce it a little bit so that I don't crush the shadow, if you know what I mean. Then exposure, I'm going to reduce exposure a little bit. Now, you remember when I told you about the HSL? In the HSL, we are now going to pick certain colors and see how we can reduce those colors individually. If you look at this image right here, the blue on my hoodie is too much. So I want to try as much as possible to reduce that. I think it's more of the green. If I come in here and reduce the green, the saturation, you'll see it tones it down a whole lot. I can even shut it down and then come to blue here, maybe reduce that. As you can see, that brings our image to a very good look, in my opinion, in a way that is not too much. So if I take it all the way, then it becomes black and white effect. I don't want that. So I want to allow that blue show through. Is a deep blue right there. I'll just park it right there. So as you can see, this is what I have achieved with this image. If I want, I can actually go ahead and also apply some vignette right here. If I slide it to the right, that will give me vignette, but I don't like to use the vignette in Capcut because it's usually too much and it looks fake to me. So I really don't like to use it. So another thing I want to do is to reduce the saturation just a little bit. I feel like the saturation on my skin is a little bit too much. So this tool here, if you look at this part here, you'll realize that that's the vectorscope, actually supposed to be the one to use for my skin tone correction. I don't yet know how to do skin tone correction in Capcut, but I did my settings correctly in camera. As you can see, my skin tone correctness is aligned. Once this particular marking is aligned to the middle there, the top here I think is red and then the bottom here is yellow. So whenever it's on this axis, you know that there's too much red in your skin, and whenever it's on this axis, you know that there's too much yellow in your skin. But in this case, it seems to look good to me. I will do it such a way that it will align properly in the skin tone line. If you know how to achieve that, hit me up in the comment. Let us exchange ideas. You know, as you can see, for me in this case, I think I like what I see. At the end of the day, you're the one who decides that whether or not your image looks good to you. You know, there's no hard and fast rule about this. So this is what I have to share with you. I hope you gained value here. If you did gain some value here, please subscribe to this channel. Let's connect and exchange some ideas. I am not an island of knowledge, and no one is at that matter. But if we come together and share ideas and exchange ideas and bounce ideas off each other, we tend to get smarter. You know what I mean, right? So until another video, know that the best time to create is now. This is Sam. I am signing out. Peace.